I want to talk about the weather in the Canary Islands.
Oh dear, Bam Bam.
I've actually had to put the engine on because there's no more wind.
Rudely awoken. The wind has completely died. We only had 4 knots true wind speed.
The wind is completely crazy at the moment. It doesn't know where it's coming from or how fast, and it's insane. We've had the engine on for a bit because there was no wind. Now the wind's coming from behind and or the side or from in front. Just hit the wazoo between Tenerife and Gomera. It's gone wild, man. So we thought we'd make this video because we've done a fair bit of sailing between the Canary Islands now, and we've sort of got a bit of a handle on the conditions. What makes for a good sail and what makes for a pretty uncomfortable sail. So
too much wind, too much swell, too little wind, too little swell. So today that's what we wanted to talk about. Shall we talk about the weather, dear?
yes, let's. What makes for a comfortable sail?
Well, there's things that you have to consider, which is the wind, how strong it is, how strong gusts might be, the swell, how big the swell is, and how far distance apart it rolls.
The period.
The period. And yeah, and the direction of the wind and the direction of the swell.
Yeah, we've been caught out a few times because, especially the sail across from Tenerife to La Gomera, it's only 20 nautical miles, but because it's so short, we thought we would just go in a straight line. But unfortunately, because of the way the islands are oriented, there's a bit of a current which comes from the northeast down between La Gomera and Tenerife. Which generally is the direction of the swell also, and usually the direction of the wind also.
Focus on generally and usually. It's quite common phrases for trying to forecast weather in the Canary Islands. So it's been all about 2 minutes since we last spoke. The wind speed has increased by 5 knots. Our speed has been increased by approximately 1.5 knots. We are slightly heeled over and the swell has gone from about 1 to 2 metres to 2 to 3 metres. So that's exactly what we were saying. It's just so unpredictable.
So we like it the most when the wind is coming from behind.
And the swell is coming from behind.
The swell is coming from behind. Or we do like broad reach. We do like sailing into the wind as well, but the problem with that is that generally, unless you're really lucky, that involves tacking. And generally when you're tacking, you've got to be so lucky with the swell. In other words, there can't be any swell, otherwise you're a bit buggered.
So, our favourite ways to sail, in summary: wind behind, swell behind, maybe 10 to 15 knots of wind, maximum 2 metre swell would be nice.
Maximum, yeah.
That's how we like to sail.
Yeah.
Canary Islands have had some different ideas for us though. The sea state, it doesn't know whether it's coming from behind, from in front, from side to side. It doesn't know what it wants to do.
We've turned the headland and the swell is coming directly behind us now, so we're surfing the waves again.
For the first time.
For the first time since the crossing.
So how was our first overnight sail since the crossing?
Bloody
Let's say we want to leave tomorrow.
Right, the first thing we do is hop onto Windy, don't we?
Windy.
We go onto Windy because generally the websites Predict Wind and Wind Finder and Windy, they pretty much all use the same wind models, wind and swell models. But I found that with Predict Wind, you have to pay to get the more the higher resolution wind maps, whereas Windy, you get it for free, all of the wind and the swell maps.
So then, after Windy, okay, Windy looks great. It looks like the swell's going to be with us. It looks like the wind's going to be really nice. What do we do then?
Have a look outside. Yeah. Especially on the day we're setting off, you know, because leaving the marina and entering the marina when it's windy are one of the most dangerous parts of the entire sail, really. Once you get out past the marina wall, you know, you can pretty much handle any situation, but inside the marina you've got to be careful because you can get blown on if the wind is too strong, blown on or blown off.
And also navigating some of the channels and some of the marinas here in the Canary Islands can be quite tight, and without such deep draft, we've got to be careful. We look through the book, our Canary Island book. It tells you really, you know, well, stay closer to the red buoy, or make sure you're close enough to the wall if you've got a deep draft, or these type of things. So we've got our tools. We've got Windy, Predict Wind, Wind Finder, generally go outside and have a look at what the weather's doing, and our Canary Island book.
Yeah.
What else about the weather then? What was surprising to us were there's these things called wind acceleration zones, and if you're not really, really careful, you can easily get caught out in one of these and you can get yourself into some pretty hairy weather.
Trouble, yeah.
So
the wind is generally about 15 knots quicker in the acceleration zone, so you can be, you know, the wind could be 15 knots, you could have your mainsail up, your genoa out, and all of a sudden you hit this wind acceleration zone and you really do hit them, you know. They're really localized and really specific, and you can hit the acceleration zone and all of a sudden you got 30 knots of wind. And
you're trying to reef your genoa or your mainsail, and yeah,
it's a bit of a surprise. So you really got to watch out for those. If
you look out enough, you can actually see where these wind acceleration zones begin, because there's more white caps on the water. But if you're not looking out for them and you get caught out, which we did one time, we got caught out.
That was coming into La Gomera, wasn't it?
We've just hit the wazoo between Tenerife and Gomera. She's gone wild, man. 25 knots of wind. Out of nowhere.
So what happens is the wind is blowing between the Canary Islands, and like I say, generally it comes from the northeast. But the Canary Islands are so unusually tall compared to the landscape that when the wind's coming from the northeast, it gets compressed between the islands and therefore obviously begins to accelerate. And it's generally at the tip of and down the sides of the islands where the wind gets accelerated. So you can be sailing along between the islands and just thinking you're having a jolly old sail. And then as you approach the harbour wall, the wind can whip up to 30 knots and you're absolutely screaming along. The boat's heeled over. It's terrifying, isn't it?
We were getting 30 knots of wind, and then all of a sudden a massive gust came out of nowhere. I don't know how fast that went, but it was tipping the boat over so much water was coming over the side.
Yeah, that was pretty hairy.
It was a bit scary.
Yeah.
Right, shall we move on?
So, weather in the Canaries, what's it generally supposed to do? The trade... Oh, well, we haven't talked about the trade winds.
Oh, those trade winds.
All the trade winds, yeah. So when I keep saying that the wind generally comes from the northeast in the Canary Islands, it's basically the trade winds. They blow from pretty much from Portugal all the way down the coast of Africa, and they come across the Canaries from the northeast. And so that's the sort of wind that you can usually expect.
Remember, usually and generally.
Yeah. But then you have to remember, for every position that you are within the Canary Islands, that each island throws its own wind shadow and swell shadow. So you also have to consider that. I mean, when we were around the back of La Palma, it was just, there was no wind at all. We had to put the engine on. We're in the shadow of the island now, and there's not a breath of wind. So we've put the sail away, put the engine on. It's a bit of a surprise here in La Restinga actually, because we're supposed to be out of the wind acceleration zone here in this marina, but goodness me, the wind blows through here like it's a wind tunnel, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've had up to what, 35 knots in the marina?
Yeah, we've had a lot of sleepless nights here.
That wind howling, man, it's crazy. Is it windy, fam?
Gusts up to 40 knots. Had a nightmare last night about the boat breaking loose.
Did you?
Yeah.
And we're on this spindly little finger as well, that just when you get off the boat it just wobbles around like a... It's crazy, isn't it? And yet the boat's tied up. We've made sure that the boat is tied onto the main pontoon as well, but it's mostly attached to this pathetic little finger. So yeah, when the wind gets up we get quite concerned about it.
Tighten those ropes up, dear.
Yes.
Toot sweet.
Why is it like offshore sailing here everywhere we go?
Well, because we're in the middle of the Atlantic, really, and there is no real sail. I mean, there's some shorter sails here in the Canary Islands, but generally you're talking at least 14, 15, 16-hour sails. And as soon as you get halfway between one island and the other, you're in the middle of the Atlantic.
Pretty much, yeah. Because of the geography of the islands, they are volcanoes that have come out of the sea floor. So as soon as you get half a nautical mile offshore, the depth goes down to like 3 kilometers. So you're basically offshore sailing, even though it's coastal sailing. It's not like Portugal.
No, it's nothing like Portugal. Portugal was nice.
Yes. So the reason we came to the Canaries was because we were in Calatra and we were with some friends there. Obviously there's quite a good community in Calatra, and we're all gathered around the campfire one night talking about what we were going to do next.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers. Cheers. Cheers.
And we were going to head into the Mediterranean. Anyway, everyone was like,
You don't want to do that.
You don't want to do that, no.
No. It's either far too much wind or no wind at all. We were like, oh, that doesn't sound like fun.
No, it doesn't.
That doesn't, and it only gets up to about 22 degrees. Oh, well, but the Canary Islands, the Canary Islands.
Wonderful sailing in the Canary Islands, oh yeah.
We're drenched! We're fucking drenched! 30 knots of wind out of nowhere!
Oh, at least 30 degrees. Oh, it's lovely there.
I must say the weather has been gorgeous here.
It has
hasn't
been.
All winter it's been fantastic. But same bloody story. It's either no wind or there's far too much of it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so it's been more challenging than we expected.
It has.
Because before we came to the Canary Islands, we were coastal sailors. We'd sailed up and down the coast of Portugal. We did that one horrific crossing to the Canary Islands. And then we thought, oh good, okay, we're here now. Let's fix the boom, let's get our feet in order, and let's go and do some lovely sailing.
Yeah, let's cut our teeth here.
We cut our teeth a bit sharply.
It's been mad. Some of the sailing here is just mad. We just had a walk with the dog along to the mole to see what the sea state was like on the outside of the marina, and it's just insane.
Okay, so we're talking quite negatively about the sailing around the Canary Islands, but we have had our good sails.
We have had good sails.
We've got both sails out and we've got between 10 and 15 knots of wind at the moment, which is really nice sailing for us.
It's lovely and it's steady as well. It's not gusting. It's just good, steady sailing. I'm the king of the world! Oh? Really, Bam?
Dog's having a freak out. Are you alright, Bam Bam? Who's there?
Who's your friend?
Who's there? Oh? Somebody there? Crazy dog. The wind, the swell, everything can change within a couple of hours in the Canary Islands. So we were keeping our eye on Windy and on the weather forecasts, and we found out that there was going to be a Calima, which are more common than we ever knew here in the Canary Islands. They like their Calimas.
Yeah, it's basically when the hot wind comes across from the Sahara, it brings a whole bunch of sand with it, and the temperatures go up,
Dramatically.
sometimes dangerously high. Yeah, they can issue weather warnings here quite frequently to say, you know, look out, there's a Calima on its way. But it also brings really strong winds, and we got stuck in the marina when the Calima, we literally got in just in time.
So when the Calima came through, it was suggested it was one of the worst in 25 years. Calimas generally hit the islands of Lanzarote, Fuerteventura and Gran Canaria the worst. And we got winds in the marina at the height of the storm up to 45 to 50 knots of wind in the marina.
Yeah, it was scary.
It wasn't comfortable. And there was still boats in the anchorage. We couldn't believe
I know,
that.
yeah.
Wow, somebody's still out in the anchorage. Look at that. Look.
That's the catch.
There's a ketch anchored out in the anchorage and it's going absolutely... Oh my days!
Holy shit, Sam.
That is insane.
But it was reassuring on this particular occasion because we were actually wedged in between a couple of other boats, so we weren't going anywhere.
We were still moving around enough though.
Yeah, we were moving around, but we were well wedged.
Ollie is resting a little drunkenly on the other boat.
So that also obviously would affect travel plans if you're sailing. Crazy dog. So being aware that things like Calimas can just come out of nowhere is something you also have to take into consideration when cruising the Canary Islands.
I mean, there's very few places to anchor here in the Canaries.
Which we did not expect.
The general weather is beautiful here, you know. We've been months without seeing a cloud in the sky at all. How many cloudy days have we had this year? Maybe 4 or 5?
Maximum, yeah.
If that. It's just clear blue skies. It's pretty special and warm as you like.
Okay, so even though you can have some tough sails, too much wind, not enough wind, too much swell, there's no such thing as not enough swell, but and it can be challenging even if you plan to the last detail. The weather predictions can be completely wrong. Would you recommend anybody who's looking to cruise to come to the Canary Islands? This is lovely. This is really lovely. approximating 2.5-3 meters of swell coming right up Ollie's bum. But it's really, really nice sailing.
It's
and
lovely.
It's a completely different experience now we have the autopilot back.
You know what? You know what? I got this.
Definitely.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like and subscribe.
Help us make more videos like this by joining our Patreon family.